Hi, Martin.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. I mean, the holiday season starts, right?
Yeah, we actually had our our Dutch version of like the Santa Claus holiday last week, but we also celebrate Christmas, so it's a pretty busy month.
What's the difference with the Dutch version? It's on the 6th or
The fifth, yeah.
on the 5th? Okay,
There's
in Germany it's the 6th. We have the Nikolaus.
yeah, it's the same one.
Yeah, okay.
We're all
I thought it was a cousin. You said it's a cousin of.
Yes,
yeah.
the Americans do it on the 24th, right? And on the 24th in Germany it's the Christ child. I don't know.
Yep.
So okay, it's the same thing in the Netherlands.
Well, it's. I mean, it's anyway just business, is it? But it's nice that everyone gets together.
Yeah. Yeah, and we get to celebrate both, so
Yeah. Hi Derek. Hi
hello.
Kamel.
Hello, hello.
So,
Co możesz?
Yes.
I think you mean tack.
tak.
Oh, I yeah, I'm home alone with the kids, or she's right there watching some cartoon. So I might be on and off.
So we are complete actually.
Now,
So
now we
Stevie.
don't have access to the cloud if you're not in your office.
Oh yeah, it's a different apartment. This one have holes.
Okay.
I
Now
need
we
to
have all.
assemble some things, furniture.
Okay.
Okay, Jeff is running late, so he's in the governing board meeting.
Um,
But we can start, I think.
for your information, it's I believe it's the primary one, so we should probably
Yes.
start with the review, just as a reminder.
Okay, let me just quickly. Okay. This was cancelled. This was cancelled. Okay, the last 2 weeks we cancelled. And just let me check. The 19th is still on,
Should
and the
we cancel
26th
that?
is cancelled.
Okay,
So
the
we can
26th, yeah.
2026 is cancelled. The 19th is still on, but we can cancel it if everybody wants to.
I won't be able to make it. We have a like a Christmas dinner at school.
Okay, then we cancel it. I mean, it's now anyways. Everybody goes slowly into holidays, so we cancel the 19th. That's the last one, and then we see each other back in January. Let me quickly check. The second is also cancelled, and then we would resume this group at the 9th on the 9th. Is that
Sounds
okay
good.
for everyone?
Yep.
Okay, I will post it anyway into the Slack channel that we resume then on the 9th, the next meeting. Okay, it's good. So, hi everyone. Let me remind you that by being here, we all agree to the GraphQL Spec Membership Agreement and to the GraphQL Foundation Code of Conduct. Let's do a quick round of introductions. So we have names to the faces. I'm Michael, I'm the host today. And I think the next on the list would be Camel, then in the order of the agenda.
I'm Camille. I'm from the guild.
I'm Martin. I'm from Apollo.
Derek from Apollo. And I guess Pascal.
I'm Pascal from Chillicum. Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah, not merged. I merged just. Okay, you're now merged. You know that you have merge rights.
I thought about saying that I can merge it myself, but then, you know, I thought like I would just not mention it, and then you will always do it for me. But now that you say it, I know. I nearly committed to master, by the way.
Yeah, that's selected by default, right?
Yeah,
I almost made the same mistake.
Yeah, it's with great powers come great responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. We have two points on the agenda for today. We will talk about override, the directive, and also a bit about the visibility of lookup. That's the discussion Stephen actually brought back to the topic. It's a shame that he's not here, but still we can look into it and see if we have some new ideas on it. I think like the review of past meetings makes no sense because there's no other person here that is not on the meetings usually. So I would skip it and we go directly into the topics.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's start with the first topic, override, and Kamil brought that, so I give up to Kamil.
Oh, it's about specifying the behavior of override. So is it like, oh, I override every time you want to resolve that field directly or indirectly? I mean, through provides or, just with the general flow? Or do we have like two behaviors there? One for, the general use case and the one for provides. And there was a suggestion from Stephen to actually treat overridden fields as external, kind of. But to me, that's like, I don't know. Like we need to specify it because it's not obvious. And all the gateways I tested, they really don't follow any like they don't follow the same pattern. All of them, they just do things differently, and some of them have just bugs.
Derek?
Yeah, as I said, this is actually a very good, like a very edge case when people do that, but that's actually nonetheless, it's actually a very good to describe it. And yes, the behavior in Apollo is actually buggy, and that should not be happening, right? So, what we actually, when we discussed about it, it's about the intent behind those two directives and what they do. So, and there's actually a different time when they do apply to it, right? So, um, provides is an optimization for the query planner, right? Saying, and I can take some, maybe I can do this smarter when I'm doing this, right? But override is actually a composition level directive that says I want to actually, instead of routing the traffic there, I want to always go to other directive, right? So technically, if we apply the overrides, it's actually that provides shouldn't make any sense in that sense. So it should, in my opinion, and it should always be that override. If I override fields, it always should go there. And if you have the provides there, that's kind of has no effect, and it just basically gets stripped out of your supergraph schema. It's much simpler than actually trying to do those other edge cases on it. But I think that actually is much more consistent behavior saying, because this is the intent behind I want to ship the traffic versus I want to provide some optimization there.
But is it really the case? Because like it could still be that this function on this gateway, this optimization, is still valid, right? You still want to, because provides is also in this data context. I have this data available. So I thought that Stephen's explanation made sense to me, like as an optimization to say, we have overrides, which in general is true. But then if there's provides, this is basically applied afterwards. In this sense, it would still be valid. Kamil?
Yeah, so just wanted to say that like if you want to take the ownership of the field, which means like, oh, whenever you like the resolver is resolved, then and you want to override that behavior because it's like, I don't know, let's say there's a bug or like you want to just move away from it, then the provides pretty much will like from the GraphQL server perspective, like in most cases, I would say, like it will follow the same path from, you know, the field to the end field. I mean, by the, you know, what do you say, like the resolver by resolver. So it will hit that resolver anyway, right? From JS perspective, even like async GraphQL from Rust and stuff like that. So yeah. So it will be called anyway in, I would say, even most implementations. So we override it, but then it's called, yeah, it's called anyway.
Just to understand this a bit better, with the explanation that that Derek gave as a composition directive, if I understand this correctly, wouldn't this more or less be the same behavior as a preprocessor directive, like remove? Because I believe that there is probably a validation rule that you cannot override if there is no other field implementing it, right? So that means it would just be a preprocessor directive for remove the field if we do it like this.
Yeah. I think it's also important to keep the sort of the intended workflow in mind, because it's meant to be a very temporary situation, right? It's to ease migration. So you're not expected to be in that state for a long time, and we may even want to warn against it.
Yeah, and this is the example, by the way. I don't know if
I
all
mean,
had
yeah,
it in mind.
So like when we talked about it, right? There was basically like with the override is actually when we build our, you know, like the query graphs and how it all fits together, right? It's basically if you apply the override, those local provides fields, they were actually shouldn't be present in the graph per se, because you already moved that part of it is actually moved to other pieces, right? So there's no path there to that provides field, and that's why the behavior there right now it's, you know, it's buggy. But there's a caveat to it that we have also the progressive overrides, which actually also apply this sort of like shifting traffic on the runtime based on the different flags, right? But that still is taking the precedence over the provides, because it actually still removes the, you know, how we build the graph there, how we
but you would say that in the supergraph in Apollo Federation, your intended behavior would be that there is no reference to this field anymore.
Yeah, so at the moment, if you look at this example here, Pascal, where we have the overrides here, right?
Yes.
So this guy overrides now, and the traffic should now go through this field. But when you go through dashboard, then you have here the provides, and it says, okay, if you come through here, I have the profile still. So it would, if you run this query, still just stay on B and not go to A. But I like, in my opinion, it looks still right? Because this method still could have this data, and could even have this data when you kind of remove this. You would put external here, and then it wouldn't.
Yeah, I think one way to look at this is that like provides is meant as an optimization. So the semantic should be the same if you don't follow the provides. And the override is really meant as a way of migrating a field at a time where you're not able to make the change simultaneously to the other graph, so to subgraph B. And in that sense, when you say I'm overriding this field from B, it may make sense to sort of to keep on the safe side and never route traffic for that type to B, not even in the provides case, if that makes sense.
Yeah, what's the difference? Just for me, because this is a directive that we introduce. What's the difference from this to, so it's a temporary state, right? You
Yeah.
said. What's the difference from this to making the field shareable and then remove it from the other side? In
Well,
like,
you want to make sure that there is still like one source of truth. You don't want to change the semantics and make it shareable, because that would open the door to like other graphs, other subgraphs also exposing that field.
right. So with override, you do not need to have a shareable field.
No,
Right. I see. I see. I see.
no, it's explicitly meant for cases where a field is not shareable and you don't want to make it shareable.
Yeah,
Because if it,
But,
because
but I mean,
the
but
description that we can do is very, very simple of it, right? If we follow the case from that Derek just explains, it's literally just a way to change the knowledge about this field in the supergraph, like for example, in the planning and in satisfiability and whatever, this field doesn't exist on this subgraph anymore. It's just
yeah.
not.
but this actually is more complicated, right? If you think about this provides optimization might have even deeper nested things that still are on this graph.
Yeah, but they
And
wouldn't. They
you
wouldn't.
have to essentially rewrite these selection sets.
No. You won't rewrite them. It would be invalid. Like at the
It's a
time
composition error.
where you validate the provides. It's the same as never including the profile field in subgraph B in the first place.
But this information in here is also validated as composition time, and now you need to
Yeah.
revalidate it at runtime.
No. It happens at composition time. Override
But
applies.
that's what I mean at composition time. That's what I meant with added complexity, right? You need to remove, kind of rewrite these
It would be
selection sets.
the composition wouldn't succeed. It would be a composition error. Like you cannot have provides on a overridden field because this.
Yeah, but this would mean you cannot migrate the field, because what you do is you first publish this and say, okay, it's now overridden from. We are overriding this field here to route the traffic through this graph. And if there's any provides here, we cannot fail. We have to rewrite this then.
Well, you may not need to fail composition, but an invalid selection set in a provides could mean that you remove the provides or ignore the provides.
Yeah, me may have like a warning there, but it's basically that provides here would be effectively ignored because the profile field doesn't actually exist in this graph anymore when we look at.
But if you think about what Stephen said, and like from the complexity level also, and if this is true, then you could very well just mark this as external.
No, not really, because then it will.
Why not?
Because external means that I cannot resolve it, but it can be resolved through a certain query path.
Yeah.
Which means that the profile will work.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the alternative, marking it as external.
It's like the less complex change, and that aligns actually with the Apollo execution behavior, right?
Yeah, but you can also not mark it as external because if you have on the same subgraph you have user by ID, then you have this intermediate period where you can never resolve a profile on a user.
Huh? Like the any other way, like only the provides ways would work with profile anymore.
Yes.
The other one
Everything
was
else
written.
would be gone.
Sorry, not just to follow. Where would you do it? Where would you mark it as
Like if we say we override this guy here, profile, this field,
Yes.
what we could do in effect would say, okay, if this is overridden, then this is external. And that means only these optimization passes would still work.
Right, I see.
And I think that is a less impactful change as canceling all provides.
Yeah, that makes sense in terms of basically what we do is instead of removing the field, we will just mark it as external, which external has a similar semantic. It doesn't
Yeah.
exist anymore, or it doesn't exist on the subgraph. You have to pass it in. When you can with provides, you can say that we have it in certain paths. So it's like removing the field without removing the field. So provides would still work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but any call that goes directly through a user, or that comes through a path that doesn't have a provides, would not be steered to this type. And that is actually a good change, because the next time you try to publish subgraph B, this should then become a composition error, because you then could force the user to bring in either make this here explicitly external, or remove the provides.
Would you say that this is something that should be should probably be resolved, or that's complicated? We need a second merge step in this case, right? Because at run, like after the merge, this should probably be already clear.
Yeah, because what you
Yeah.
do is you first publish this one, right? And then
Um,
you can go to this one and remove this field, and then you can either remove the provides, if that is the case, or make this really external.
Yeah, I'm wondering, in our composition section in the specification where this goes, and if it even should go there. What's the outcome that we expect in the end? Do we expect to have in like whatever the supergraph or however we call it? Do we need this information still, or do we actually annotate it as external or not? Like, is this something that should be specified in the merge process, that we have this information for later
Yeah, I
validation,
think so.
satisfiability and everything? Because then we have we are a bit in a, we merge. Okay, so we merge by, yeah, that does work. We merge by type name, so we get all the user types, and then we can check at some certain point if there is overridden fields. If there are overridden fields, then we will mark the other one as external. Then we have like formally specified the behavior in the specification, and
What is what is the behavior then with chaining? Like, is there like they could also be chaining, right? You could override an overridden field.
I'm not
Or
sure.
is that an error? Like it's
That's
just a
definitely not something
hypothetical.
we'd want to encourage, but so
Yeah, but it could happen. Just that we have a behavior in mind.
yeah.
It could be that we say, okay, that's not allowed. Then we
I,
error
I
out.
I would say it's not allowed, but I don't know what the current behavior is.
override an overridden field.
Yeah, because like let's say you have this
mean,
published
technically-
like this, and now you come with a new user of service C that says I'm overriding from A.
Technically, if you think about it, it shouldn't be allowed anyway, because the field is not
we
shareable.
we don't. I think there's an error when we do that.
Yeah,
It's
because
an error.
the field is not shareable, and if you look at it from one subgraph, you only reference another subgraph. So
But
now
there's an actually interesting case here, because actually if you have like subgraph A, B, C, D, E, and they all have the same field, you can override it, but you have to do it say by one graph. Maybe we want to look at it. Maybe I want to override from multiple graphs, but it actually works. It's basically if you have like 5
Yeah.
graphs that have the same field, but you say I override it from that specific graph, it basically just removes it from that graph and pipes it to one when you
Yeah,
override the other one.
I totally see this working. It's basically the same thing. It's you want to migrate from one graph to the other, but you want to migrate a field which is shareable and shared to the others. So it's very, very likely that this could also be shareable. The field doesn't have to be shareable, but it can be shareable.
So what we are talking about is that one field overrides from many, or
That's a case.
Well,
I don't-
but that's a separate case. So like let's talk about.
yeah.
It's like
I'm just trying to understand
Yeah.
what are the
I think the case we were trying to discuss is here we have A
Yeah.
overriding B, and what if C now overrides A?
let's model this first.
Yeah.
So we have B overriding and then overriding from A.
Yeah.
Where this is A, and this is C.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely don't want to encourage something like this. I don't even think it should be supported necessarily, because it's really a temporary situation and we want to make sure it's resolved as soon as possible. And if you have the ability to publish to A and overwrite B there, you also have the ability to remove the override and then overwrite from A and C.
Well, this is complicated. That's a pre-merge validation rule because
So,
after
so this
Oh.
would be a validation. This would be an error, right? If we merge this, then we have basically two overrides, and this would be
two
false.
overrides are allowed.
Yeah, but coming from
chains.
building a chain is not allowed, though.
Yeah, but two overrides are allowed because when you have, let's say you have 4 subgraphs, 2 define the field as shareable. Now you want to migrate the data away from these 2 fields to the other 2 subgraphs. So A references C and B references D. Then you have 2 overrides on the same field, but they're not chained. And then everything is good.
Okay,
That makes
so
sense. Yeah.
if we have a D here, right? And we take this one out, and this would not go to A but to D, then it would be okay.
I think so, yeah.
But one of the field has to annotate it as shareable as well. At least.
Yeah. I know, but this, for me, it was just important to understand what the
It's tricky. It's a tricky validation rule. You cannot just say if there's 2 overrides, you actually have to chain it.
That's exactly what I wanted to find out, because we could merge it and then just count, okay, there's more than one, that's not allowed, but it's not as easy as that. We have to follow the chain. If we have a chain, then it's not allowed.
Derek, do you know what the current behavior is in
I'm
the
not sure
Federation?
about this one because this is also like, I think this might error out. I'll double check it after the meeting, but I think this would error out right now.
So you probably just validate if there's 2 overrides on the same field and then explode.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's not
a very common situation.
Yeah, you have to.
Okay.
It would have been way more efficient to just open a new window.
Yeah.
Yes,
yes. Even in the case you just described, where you want to migrate from like 2 subgraphs to 2 other subgraphs, you can still do that, but you would have to do it in multiple stages. Like migrate from A to C first, remove the override, and then then override from B to D, for instance.
So just because I want to note this down for validation rules that we create for this. So are we in agreement that if you put override on something and there's a provides, we just make it the other field becomes just this external? Or is that something you want to
I think we may want to check what the effect on our implementation would be.
Yeah, but that wouldn't
because the implementation
that wouldn't affect the validation, right? Because it should be fine.
Yeah, it affects the composition. That's more like in the composition we would handle it then external.
It's more that would be more like the merge part where the external actually takes effect. But for provides, it's fine to just have it. Or
and just to be clear on this, because like Kame, correct me if I'm wrong, but the behavior looks like it today, right? If I follow.
It depends what gate we do, right?
I mean, Apollo router.
But
yeah, so I think I explained it there. You scroll down, I think, and I showed. Yeah, so the Apollo router, the entire query is resolved from B. But if you ask for like name or bio, wait, even when I ask for name, yeah. So basically, whenever you ask for the fields that are there, it will just collect all of them but I need to check.
But if you ask for name, if I would ask here for name, which is not in the provides, it would go to the other side.
No, still within the same graph.
It's
Yeah,
a
but
bug.
that's a bug, right?
It's the current
But
behavior is
it
a bug.
belongs
There's
there,
actually
so
PR
That would be a
fixes,
bug,
but-
yeah. Because I would like this query would make sense to me because this looks like okay, because we have this optimized path here, right?
Mhm.
But the moment you have name here, it at least would need to resolve the name from a.
Yes, what graph base and Hive are doing is they,
And he gone.
if you do it through provides, yeah, you can fetch, but all the other fields from the original source. So from the that's the bio, let's say here the provide. If you uh, select the
You,
bio,
you're dropping out, Camille.
Okay, this is a to do. I can create an action item for that, so we don't forget it. So for each of us, it's like check what you think would be a better behavior. Like canceling out the provides is one option, or looking at basically the profiles field as if it's external in this case is the other
Yeah.
option. If you could.
I mean, maybe the question is, can anything go wrong if we just treat it as external? I mean, there's still the intention from the user that he wants to provide the biofield, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, but
I will.
it's actually it's a problem. It's a problem, to be honest. It's still a problem because if you override from the other subgraph, right? The action that you want to do is quite a strong action. You want to migrate the data from one
Yeah.
subgraph to another. And if you think about the document database where you have the profiles stored, and you also have the additional information bio which you can provide from this subgraph. Now the question is, after you you use override, this data is probably out of sync. That's like the intention of migrating the field. So
it's also a bit of a weird starting situation where we're basically saying we can always resolve the profiles field, but we also have specifically a provides, which is not doing anything really in the starting case, right?
I mean, it could be a composition error because we can just say remove the provides first. Like you anyway will have to, when you do a migration between two subgraphs, the teams have to coordinate anyway, right? And you anyway have to plan this out. You have to move data and whatever. This is effective, essentially what this is for. So we could make it a composition error. You could theoretically say that when you override something which is used in the provides, then we explode. And we say you have to remove the provides first, because the provides is just a fetch optimization. So if you give them weight, like provides is something that's just a fetch optimization. But override is super strong. It's like, I want this to be resolved from here. And then we can say, you have a provide somewhere which will collide with this. So that's the reason why you cannot do this.
I think we each need to think about these two options. I can make an argument for either one.
Yeah. I think if you discuss it with your colleagues in Apollo also to get more heads around that.
Yeah, and it would be great to get Stephen's input as well.
Yeah, like Steve, it's a pity, but I will.
But for the next meeting, I mean,
yeah, exactly. We can pick it up. Okay, this is not allowed, right? I take that This was what we discussed. There we are pretty sure.
I think so.
Because then
yeah.
we I create a task for it and we make it a validation rule.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Okay,
you
let's.
can also just can you add another task, because otherwise we forget.
Yeah, just let me save it so I don't lose it. Desktop.
See, you're smarter than I am, because I always lose my meeting notes, because after the meeting they just disappear. So what we anyway need, depending, it doesn't matter. No, actually, only in the case of, we can wait. Only in the case of external, we need a merge rule, but the merge rules are very different, right? The merge rules are essentially, we remove the field from the other type completely if we do not allow provides. And if we allow provides, we have to mark the other field as external in the merge. So the merge rules would be completely different.
We just.
I mean, from the composition perspective, I believe it's even easier to just like, if a field is overridden, then you just simply drop it. And then if you see that the sub-selection is broken, then because, you just cannot do this, then you yell the composition error. But it has like, if it has like more fields that could be resolved, then it's still, I don't know, you just drop it and it just, resolves the part of the query that is there.
Depends.
I mean, selection.
It depends where I'm not sure where we validate the provides. I'm not sure if we validate the provides in I think the selection set in provides we validate as a pre-merge validation rule, because you have everything locally on your subgraph, right? If you have a provides, you have to mark the fields as external and they have to exist. So this validation happens before we would remove the field. If in the sequence, it's not that you have to implement it this way, as said many times. You don't have to do it this way, but in the logical flow of the specification, the provides would actually succeed even though there is no field. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Either we move it down after the merge, but then again, we don't need this information anymore. Like, I mean, we'd still have to provide. Yeah, that's fine. We could merge, we could just move it down. Then it would actually, I agree, then it would be super easy. We just remove the field and then provides doesn't have this field anymore. The error message is terrible because it's a completely different behavior. But we probably should have a dedicated validation rule for this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, we make that an action item to pick that up again.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Okay. I'll fill in the issues afterwards, but just that we have that.
I mean,
and, we can pick it up in the next meeting in January.
We can actually do just something which makes administering this thing a bit easier. We can also you can copy it over into the issue and we just discuss it in the issue, and then you only have to press create afterwards. Then we have the action item. Like the stuff that we have in here.
Yeah, the other thing is this thing I put as an issue on the spec repo. So we can implement the chaining already as a validation rule.
Yeah. So many validation rules.
Yeah, Pascal and I are discussing so many validation rules in the last weeks.
Just hope I should really open a pull request, because if my notebook breaks down now, all progress is lost.
Okay, are we good on this? Then we can move on. We have 20 minutes.
One quick question here. Kamal, have you ever done like analyzed some of your data sources to see how this is used?
This one not. This one was just like I was trying to like stretch Apollo Federation.
Right.
And you know. But the override is used, even the progressive one. I'm just not sure if it's used with a combination of provides.
It's
yeah, run
progressive.
it.
It's
will take some time.
progressive override its own thing.
Sorry.
It's a different
it-
behavior. So it's a different
Right, that's
behavior.
it. It's its own directive or what?
No, it's the
Yes.
same one. It's just extra argument to it.
Right.
So
I
a
think
label is optional.
we do have it argument less at the moment, right? We just have from as an argument in the composite schema specification.
Yes.
Yeah. So the second thing we have for discussion today is this guy here, where we have lookups.
Yeah.
And this also came up by Stephen. It's good input. The other one was coming, but this one was Stephen last meeting. Maybe not last. Who brought this up? If lookup and the thing is, his thought process was like when they migrate from Apollo Federation to the composite schemas back, then at the moment, like all the reference resolvers are kind of implicit, right? They are behind the entities field.
Yeah.
And now they're introducing these things as fields on top here. And they always have to make sure that they're internal to match what is there today. And then afterwards, maybe decide, oh, actually, we have this field already as a public field there also. So we can remove the internal. And I think this was something that Carmen also wanted to have, like a lookup as internal by default. So I still think it's a weird side effect to have internal just making something disappear. But
Lookup, you mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you put lookup on it, it's totally, like for me, it's totally not understandable why this hides this field.
And it's also the only situation where we would need sort of the opposite behavior of making something public.
Yeah.
But Martin had a good question on that, and I'll leave it to you.
Yeah. So apart from sort of the migration question that Michael just discussed, my question is why we feel the default of a lookup should be internal if all other fields are public. Is there something specific about lookup that sort of wants us to say most lookups should be internal? And the one case I could think of is a key that you don't actually want to expose to users. I think that's a situation where you want to sort of ensure that some kind of internal ID, for instance, is never exposed to users. But that's separate from the default lookup behavior. It's something that's much stronger. So if that's sort of the most common case we're trying to protect against, like and ensuring that you don't accidentally make a lookup public, then it seems to me the protection we need is actually stronger. It would be saying that a specific key or a specific key field like internal ID should be inaccessible. And that would then force a lookup that references that field to be marked internal as a validation rule.
Always get it wrong.
Double S.
One S missing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me, the most common case I have in my mind is I know in Federation V2 there's no owner per se, like it's not like as strong as it was in V1, I believe, but you still implicitly have it because an entity resolver is never callable from the UI. So from the outside, you can never call a reference resolver. You can only call them on the gateway. No, only the gateway can call the reference resolvers. So my issue is a bit that, let's say you have two subgraphs. We have the product subgraph and we have the review subgraph. And now you expose product by ID on product because you want to have a field product by ID on the gateway, the public schema. And reviews extends the product by adding the reviews to the product, which therefore means that you will have a product by ID field, most likely, if this is the key, on the review subgraph. Because you contribute to the product. Now, if you think about it, it doesn't make sense to have like federation just for this case. You will probably also have something like, I don't know, the ordering subgraph, the delivery subgraph, whatever, which, for example, contribute the stock field, which contribute whatever. And not necessarily the case that all of these subgraphs know that a product really exists. It's only a reference resolver.
Well, I mean, I think we discussed this before, and it really depends on whether you think there's a single source of truth for existence or whether sort of existence is distributed. Because you can also argue that as long as there's a review for a product with a specific ID, that product exists.
I agree. I agree.
And if you're only asking for the reviews field of a product by ID, then there should be no need to go to the product subgraph
The problem,
as an optimization.
The problem is more, you need to go to the product subgraphs in case there is no review. If you want to check for if you want to, for example, check for the existence of a product, it would be wrong to go to the review subgraph. You know, the identity. Or think about this. I only query the stock and the reviews, but I don't query anything from the product subgraph.
Yeah.
Now, if we think about this in execution plan, it could be that we, for example, go to the well, we don't chain it probably, but there is possibly a case where we would chain it. So you go first to the order subgraph, and then you go to the other subgraph. Are we always executing in parallel? We probably would, right?
I would think so, yeah.
So then one would return null, which is fine, and the other one.
What would be parallel if this is not internal?
No,
no.
If you request stock product by ID and then you request stock and reviews, you would never hit the product subgraph.
No, and that's intentional because there's no need to.
Yeah. But in federation now you would, right? You would first go to the field that defined to the subgraph that defines user by ID as public.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you would go to the other subgraphs.
Yeah. So this actually may make certain query plans more efficient.
Just wondering if you have in the planning step, if there's any way that it could interfere that there is no entity product by ID on the ordering subgraph or on the other subgraph.
I'm not sure I follow.
Like if you have a public product by ID, you do not know the product exists, right? It could be that the product exists if you have an order or if you have a review, the product exists.
Yeah, I think Pascal's example is if we stay in the product world, you have an aggregation maybe, like reviews. So you can get like the reviews graph has a product which has a collection of reviews on it. So if there is no review for this product, it would just return empty. So if you have this as an entry point, you get the product back as an instance with an empty list, but actually the product does not even exist.
Yeah, that's the other direction even. If you want to have a default value, then all the products exist, right? Like if the connection is non-nullable, all products will exist.
Let me make this example. It's product by ID. But with the internal lookup, I mean, this is why you can make it internal, right? And this is the whole story that we have behind making a lookup internal to steer traffic, kind of make sure that you first hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
this
mean,
and
I much prefer having the lookup internal on the query type rather than having it on the keys, because it's very easy. You go.
Yeah, but it's two different problems, right? This is two different problems. What we have to find out, and that's why I find this also very interesting. Why do we want certain lookups to be internal? There is a point to be made for this one, right? This is typically you have a product and maybe you have aggregations in one thing, and which will just calculate things. And you want to make sure that you first get the product data somewhere and then you hit the other graph. But there's also a point to be made for maybe you have very complex keys, maybe an object as a key, and you would never expose that as a public entry point. It's just uh, it's just to delegate some work and data to another subgraph. So I think both of these things are reasons why we might want to make certain lookups internal. Like for me, it's still not clear, will most of the lookups be internal or not?
I would say not, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, that's also my, like Pascal is on the opposite. And I'm also thinking that most lookups should be public.
Yeah.
Because it makes for a better API. Like I discussed this also with Matt from Facebook. Like that you anyway have things like the node field, like if you have a relay schema, and then you should actually have proper lookups for all of the nodes, because that is a better API than using like a hidden mechanism like the nodes field.
I completely
Yeah.
agree with this, but this is the public schema. I completely agree with this. Like, you should not use node. If you want to fetch a product by ID, you should have a product by ID field. You should not never use node to explicitly fetch a product by ID. But this is the public schema that deals with it. As long as I have a product, a service which exposes a product by ID, this is given, right? It's more about what the subgraphs or the source schemas do with it. You know, that's a bit the question. Because I agree with the statement of what Matt says, that you should have a specific resolver for a specific case. Like, if you want to fetch, if your UI, if you have a product page that displays a product by its ID, you should have a field on the public schema on your GraphQL API, product by ID, and you shouldn't abuse the node field to fetch this. Though that's just the public schema. As long as there is one subgraph that exposes a public product by ID, we have a public lookup, right?
It's a bit also how you build your distributed system. How
Oh,
there's a need for steering through certain things.
Yeah, and to me, it's kind of odd to have a directive doing two things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I like the explicit separation. That, well, yes, we have mechanism for hiding fields. That's internal, right? This is actually not how you would actually expose it. But lookup is a mechanism for doing those entry points
Yeah.
and whatever, right? You want to call it. But it's like it's a clear separation. Otherwise, like, oh yeah, you do a lookup. It's also makes it private. But then you have this extra directive to make it public, but everything is public by default in the GraphQL. So it's kind of odd from that perspective, but
Yeah, I think the question is, do we think it's somehow inconvenient or dangerous to make public the default for the lookup field? And the dangerous case is, I think, the inaccessible key field case. At least that's the only one I could think of. The inconvenient one is, like, it really comes down to, do we expect people to expose most of their lookup fields as public fields, or do we expect them to expose most of them as internal?
Yes, and I think this is very clear. Like if you read the schema, and this is very clear to see. Okay, this should be hidden, or this should be removed as an entry point. This is an internal thing to resolve this.
Yeah.
This other thing. Here.
And this way we can also combine it with inaccessible, so you can actually like choose the stronger option of making it inaccessible even.
And then all of them are gone. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but
So
inaccessible, inaccessible, that's where I have a problem with. You should never use inaccessible. I mean, you should never is a strong word, but you should probably not use inaccessible on a lookup, because it could very well be that there is a subgraph where this key is not inaccessible, and now you remove the only like valid entry point of it. Because one thing that we have to keep in mind is you can have multiple keys on an entity, and in with reference resolvers in Federation, that doesn't change anything on your graph. If you now have like product by ID and product by SKU, you know, you have both of them, then you have two fields. So for each key, you will have a field. And it's probably not a good idea to block this field for all of the subgraphs that exist. Like you're now on the query root, and it's not something which has, it's as soon as you have a lookup internal field, it's a technical detail. It's not something that you want to shape. You only have it to patch or to add data to an existing field. If you make this inaccessible, you lock the capability for the whole system to have.
Yeah, but the idea is that sometimes that's intentional. If you have some kind of internal ID that you don't want to expose, by making it inaccessible, you force other subgraphs to also mark it inaccessible.
Yeah, and it's also, Pascal, this is a design decision of the implementer, kind of. It's just the capability exists. Even if we say, like, in general, you want to use internal because of these reasons, then there could be this one case where this is a company decision then.
But when let's switch to the other way around. Can you mark SKU as inaccessible on product type?
And
Now, shouldn't we even have a validation rule which says that this is not legal?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I was suggesting. Yeah.
Okay.
That was the question that Martin in the beginning brought in. Like,
Okay,
is it about keys? Like, if you say this is actually inaccessible and this is part of a key, should this force now either composition errors or?
I mean, we have semantic equivalence between product by SKU, between the SKU argument and the SKU field. So we know that this field actually is inaccessible. And then we could actually force, we could do that.
Yeah, so we generate a validation warning and basically force people to mark that product by SKU lookup field as inaccessible in this case.
There should be a warning there. Well, actually, it could be even if you mark it as inaccessible, it could be even a composition error. Actually, be stronger.
Yeah, I think it should be.
So you do need to add it there explicitly because this is actually there.
You know, I'm more and more in the thing that if now, let's just say that you are not allowed. Let's just say we are a bit further and we allow to have non-root fields as reference as lookups, right?
Yep.
Like first thing I would do is probably I would create
This is, by the way, no, Pascal, this is a valid case already. And
Yeah.
this is something Carmen actually brought up in the beginning, because what he wants to do is have a subtype, like internal lookups that make this inaccessible, and then all the lookups in this type, in
Yes.
this nested type, are gone.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
actually a good thing. What we also could ask Stephen if that is.
But that could be a very good pattern. You can make a subtype for inaccessible,
Yes.
a subtype for because then you also don't have the collisions on the root types. Because that's a
Yes,
problem
because
with the composite schema specification, that you collide with other subgraphs which define the same field in the query type.
because yeah, actually, if you have a pattern like this in a company,
you might even call this subgraph A lookups, because you don't need to merge these types.
yeah. Well, however you want to do it, right? Even if you have said that is a central thing, so nobody forgets it, and then in your subgraph you decide if you have your lookup here or here, and because this, we can also do it here just to double prove it, and then, sorry. Yeah, and then these lookups would just be all lookups that you put here are inaccessible, and then you can think about if you want to move them up.
Well, this has a few problems now.
Why?
I'm thinking. I mean, I'm just thinking a lot now. But if you have a type internal lookups and a field internal lookups on the root, you run into the issue that you will have type collisions.
Because inaccessible, the types have to match, right?
So the question I have at the moment is, I mean, I have to think about this because this would be quite a change. Like, should there be a way to even be more specific about this? Like that this thing might exist in different subgraphs, but we don't care, specifically for lookups on the root types, not on any other types. It's just like that you can design it the right way. You have clean entry points, but the clean entry points do not collide with other subgraphs. For public lookups, that's fine. We don't care for public look. Product by ID is fine. But you see on line 48, what you want is this to be really subgraph local. Like
yes.
you want to
so you want actually you want actually this more like to behave like internal, so that you have no collision.
Or we have a type. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud now. It could be a terrible idea, but something like lookups that you can have on a type, and then we just ignore the type in the merge. We just use.
But are we talking about a pattern here or something that would be?
Yeah, so this is no, this is just a pattern.
Just a pattern, right? Yeah.
Yeah, how people and how people could organize themselves. This is nothing that we say you have to follow this.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's just a pattern or if it could be part of a feature.
I wouldn't like this.
No, there's a variety of ways to organize these fields into namespaces and
I think we just need to allow.
I gotta drop off because it's an interesting discussion, but
I have to go in a few minutes as well.
I just so for me this could be a pattern to allow people to like give people the way out. Actually,
as a pattern I can see it, but I think Pascal was
but we can resolve
suggesting something stronger.
We can resolve this very easily by having one thing. So we don't need new directives and whatever. But do we want to allow collisions between internals? Because that would be very, very.
I think so. I think that was the intention, right?
Then
that was the intention of internal.
But then we would allow internal on the type as well. That would be a change. That's the same stuff that we have at inaccessible. It basically means that you add it to all of the fields.
Okay, yeah.
So you can have like
tiny
this. this is basically a change that you can have these internal lookups. You can make so that this pattern works. That you basically can say this is my whatever type, and it's internal. It means basically it's internal to this subgraph,
Yeah.
and it doesn't collide.
Because the intention that you have as developer here is I actually want to, if you look at this schema, it's super clear what is public, what is
Yeah.
private. You don't have to worry about any collisions, and if there are collisions, you don't care. You actually care. So if you have a product by ID that returns an order, then crazy, I know, but if you have this, you care about the collision. In the internals, you don't. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I don't think you even need the internal lookups type here though. Like if you're replicating the inaccessible behavior, I think something like extend type query and just have a different extension block with internal. I think that should give you the same behavior, right?
You mean like this?
No, extend.
Uh-huh.
You have a second type query. You do an
Yeah.
extend type query and you mark this extension as inaccessible.
Yeah.
And then you just define it directly on
But
it.
the rule of inaccessible is that it still has to merge, right?
No, I mean internal. But extend
Yeah.
type query internal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And then
Yes.
you could just have the product by SKU in there.
Yeah,
Oh
but
yes.
now
that
you would collide with the public lookups, which probably is fine.
What it wouldn't collide because it's internal, right?
Yeah, no, I mean this specific example collides because you don't have like the full freedom because there could be a public lookup with the same name.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because then you already have the lookup, so you don't care. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just user error at this point. But
like I can write a proposal for this, and we see if
This-
like shouldn't we then make internal, just last thing, shouldn't we make internal vielleicht private to make it more clear, like the difference between inaccessible and this, like this is really private to this is private. I don't know, it's private to this subgraph, so it doesn't have a merge collision.
But private is a problem because in software terminology, private means that you can call it.
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's end the meeting and discuss and continue on this. I write a bit together on this, and then we have an issue for this.
I
So
really
we
like
can
this.
discussion.
Sounds good.
I really like this. This is awesome.
Okay,
Yeah, I think we're getting somewhere.
slowly.
All right.
Okay, Martin, have a
well,
good few
enjoy the
days.
holidays
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
too.
too.
and see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye
Bye.
bye.